Thank you so much for having me. My talk is going to be on a little internet project called Wikipedia. I'm not sure if you guys can remember the first thing you ever looked up on Wikipedia. I know I can't. I don't even think my browser history goes back that far. I think I was probably using Netscape at the time. But these days, there are Wikipedias in 300 languages, from Catalan to Igbo. Wikipedia has over 50 million articles. I know all of these numbers because I work for the Wikimedia Foundation, which is the global nonprofit that supports Wikipedia. But Wikipedia is not just a source for knowledge. This is the Welsh language Wikipedia. The Welsh language Wikipedia is the most popular Welsh website ever. The government recognized this and instituted a national Wikipedian to advance Welsh language and history through Wikipedia. So Wikipedia is really a place to protect and promote languages that may not be part of the dominant record. It's also a trusted source of medical information. The article on dengue fever on Wikipedia actually was submitted and accepted to PubMed as a medical article. We're seeing record numbers right now of people coming to learn more about coronavirus and like share and search information. But Wikipedia isn't complete. I'm here to tell you that Wikipedia needs you. So we can only estimate about how many people read Wikipedia because, as you know, we don't track you. We get about 1.5 billion unique devices a month. But what about writers? I'm not sure if anyone on this call has ever written Wikipedia. If so, thank you, thank you. You are part of a very small minority because only 1% of the people who read Wikipedia edit Wikipedia. That means that this resource that is used around the world is written by a tiny fraction of the people who need it, the 1%, which sounds kind of familiar, right? And who are these people? Who are the people who write Wikipedia? Librarians, doctors, they're students, they're retirees, but they're mostly from the US and Western Europe, and they're mostly white men. That means that Wikipedia reflects the knowledge and interests of this really small slice of the world. We thought we created this grand experiment to crowdsource knowledge for everyone, but have we really changed who has access to create knowledge? Now, I'm not sure how many of you remember Katie Bowman. She was the physicist who created the algorithm that helped take the first picture of a black hole, as you see here. When that happened, someone created a Wikipedia page about her. But within hours, a veteran editor recommended that her page be deleted. They said that she wasn't that notable, that she was part of a much larger group that actually helped create that algorithm. They even said the only reason she got the recognition was because she was pretty. Thankfully, other editors rose up to defend Katie's achievements. Her page was restored. You can read all about her on Wikipedia now. But this is a pretty common problem. Of all of the biographies on English Wikipedia, only 18% are about women. Now, we've all probably had that experience where we've gone on Wikipedia looking for something, we've seen something inaccurate or out of date. Maybe there hasn't been a page at all. We've probably just rolled our eyes and moved on, right? Now, I remember the first thing that I ever edited on Wikipedia and was the page about Elizabeth Friedman, who you see here. She was actually one of the founders of the modern art of cryptography. She already had a page, but I added a section about her, about why J. Edgar Hoover was so threatened by her, and it's still there. And I look at what's happening right now. We're seeing these long overdue calls for social change and racial justice. But how many of the Black leaders, the Black artists, and Black voices you're hearing about right now have a Wikipedia page? These omissions might not be intentional. Wikipedia has a ton of principles: neutral point of view, verifiability. I could go on and on. When you write for an encyclopedia, you tend to be somewhat long-winded, which is why 5 minutes is really hard. But my favorite principle is AGF, which means assume good faith. Editors have spent countless hours writing in their knowledge into Wikipedia in good faith and with the best of intentions. But when there are gaps in their knowledge, we all miss out. The information on Wikipedia forms a knowledge panel on Google searches. The information on Wikipedia is what it pulls from when you ask Alexa or Siri or Google Home a question. The topics and people that are missing from Wikipedia won't show up. Sorry, that's my Alexa. But this information will be part of the largest open data set used by machine learning systems and NLP researchers to train the next generation of computer algorithms. That means we're embedding the gaps in our knowledge into the technology that's going to power our world. Wikipedia gives us a chance to edit history. When we make it more representative, we make it more accurate. So please start adding your knowledge to Wikipedia. We need you. Thank you.
Yay! Yay.
Should I stop sharing? I don't know the protocol.
You can stop sharing if you can put it on yourself, or if you have slides that people want to talk more about, you can go back to those. Whichever, we will let the question and answers dictate that. So a lot of cool material covered. Questions for Nadee?
Who's our Q&A person? Preston, are you doing that?
It looks like I'm doing it until somebody taps me on the shoulder and says they're doing it.
Okay.
All right, we got a raised hand from James Heelan.
Hi, Nadee. Thanks for presenting. That was fantastic. I hadn't previously thought about languages spoken by smaller populations of people than those who speak English, for example. So what, if anything, does Wikipedia do to ensure sort of quality, consistency between articles that are posted in English versus those, for example, in Icelandic or Welsh?
So this is one of these like kind of late breaking things that we're working on right now. I think so we want to preserve the knowledge that's present in a particular language, right? There's risks in just machine translating the entirety of English Wikipedia, which is the largest Wikipedia, into a whole bunch of other languages. Winston Churchill is a really interesting example that some of the volunteers I talk with bring up, because while we may think of Winston Churchill in one way, in a lot of the Indic languages, Winston Churchill has a very different role as a colonizer. And what he's done in India. And that's represented in a lot of the different Indic language Wikipedias. So like just translating from the English article to a different language may not be like a good representation of knowledge. So what we're doing right now is the foundation, which I work for, we are largely an engineering organization. So part of what that team is doing is creating a machine translation tool where you can actually choose to translate different articles if you want to. So volunteers have that tool they can use. So when they start a new Wikipedia, for example, a new language Wikipedia, there's actually just one created for one of the indigenous languages in Taiwan. I'm blanking on the name, but they can choose to kind of use some of the foundational articles in English or in a different language and translate that and choose which pieces they want to translate.
May I ask a brief follow-up?
Yeah.
Is there any, I'm struggling to get out of like my Americentrism, but like, is there any translation or machine learning translation from those Indic language perspectives back into the English language Wikipedia entries?
Yeah, so yeah, and I didn't mean to imply this was all coming like from Western languages into, so the translation tool actually like goes multiple ways, and we support more languages than Google, we support more languages than any internet platform that currently exists. So we actually partner with companies like Google on things like translation. Some of our engineers are building digital fonts for, languages that may not have a full digital font library available. So they're doing some pretty cool things. So yes, they like volunteers in English Wikipedia could also choose to look at that article and kind of look at an article in a different language and then translate it back. I will say that doesn't often happen because it's not often that information is missing. It's that complexity of there may be different information, but not that there's an article or a topic that's missing. So this is one of these things about kind of how do we make sure that, for example, an article in English represents all the different perspectives. We haven't necessarily figured that out yet.
Oh, right, sorry. I forgot that I'm doing this now. Okay, let's hear from, because I'm sitting next to him, Jamie.
Great, yeah. This was really interesting and enlightening presentation. Thank you. My question is, what are some of the ideas that are being put into action to give access to Wikipedia to people who may not have computers, who may not have internet access? There's a wealth of information in parts of the world that people just not a standard thing, kind of like it is here.
Yeah, it's a great question. So there's a couple of things that are happening. And I think this is where it's one of those things where we really look for partners, because we can't solve internet access by ourselves as a nonprofit that has a really specific goal, which is making sure this type of knowledge is available and that Wikipedia sites are open, reliable, available everywhere. Right now, we work with a company called Kiwix, for example, in several countries in Africa. They have this product that's mostly used in lots of schools. You can upload Wikipedia in multiple languages into this like really small box, and then it's available offline. So as long as someone has a computer, but they don't need internet access, and they can do that kind of like update and upload pretty easily. So that's one thing that happens. We did a partnership. It ended up just being a pilot, unfortunately, because of economic reasons. The companies involved didn't keep going with it, but we partnered with service providers, some of the big telecom companies in India and Southeast Asia, where they provided access to Wikipedia specifically for people that didn't have data connection. So if you just had like if you had cell service but you didn't pay for data, you could still get to Wikipedia as one of those few sites without having to pay for it. So those are some options. I don't know that we have a great answer, because it's that struggle of scaling, right? And how do you do that in an effective way?
I thank you for that. How about Cameo?
Unmute. Thanks, Rana. And thanks, Nadee. That was an excellent talk, an interesting perspective with a lot of cool numbers. 1% I'll think of not just as the 1% of the 1%, but also in this context. So with respect to all of the knowledge gaps that aren't being fulfilled by the 99% of people that aren't writing articles on Wikipedia, are there any initiatives being taken to target people in order to encourage them to fill specific gaps?
Ooh. So we have initiatives to start filling those gaps, but targeting people is an interesting question. Yes and no. I mean, I think we want to build advocates and communities that we aren't talking to right now and have them kind of expand their own community. So I think that's one way that we work. So just like a quick kind of point of how Wikipedia communities work is someone will start editing in a particular language or a particular location, and they can build a user group, which is still a group of volunteers, but has a little bit more formality. They can get things like grants from us. They hold maybe live edit-a-thons, things like that. Just like a little bit more formal group of people who want to edit about a specific topic or a specific language or specific region. I just got the really exciting news this weekend that we acknowledged a new user group, the Sudanese user group, which is our first user group of volunteers in the Sudan, which was really cool. But those aren't us kind of going out and asking them, right? It's more organic. We are working on some initiatives, for example, specifically with women, to try to get more women editing, to try to get more young women editing, especially in schools. We're working with HBCUs on trying to get more Black people editing about the topics that are interesting to them. And that's actually been really interesting hearing some of those pilots, because like the students are like, wait, I can actually change, this is an inaccurate thing about this person and I can change it. I've never been able to do that in my life. So we're doing some of those on a small scale, but Cameo, I love the question because we're not doing a ton of targeting. So.
I see in the chat, Hazel, do you have a question?
That was sort of my question, actually. So, have you made any efforts to target people in particular? And I guess a follow-up to that is, and you've just answered that, but do you have any sense of why people don't do it? Because there are many experts, obvious experts, and I don't have names top of my head, who you think, oh, well, this person has to write this, and why won't they? And maybe that's something to do with the perception of Wikipedia itself, which I'm not even going to go there. You can answer that if you wish. But why wouldn't someone, or what, do you have a sense of?
Yeah, I mean, I do think part of it is the perception of Wikipedia, which isn't necessarily inaccurate, Wikipedia is like a lot of the internet, mostly white men. It's not, especially English Wikipedia. Actually, it's really interesting. The newer language and newer communities are really welcoming, and they're very different. But English Wikipedia, which has been around the longest since 2001, isn't necessarily known as the most welcoming place. We are starting to change that, but there's certain things right now as a new editor, if you edit it and you do something wrong, like you don't put the citation, the footnote correctly, there's no like kind of kind person that comes and says, hey, maybe you can do it this way. It's like you get this like blast from a veteran editor. It's like, you didn't do this right, rejected, it can be really tough. And so especially even people with tons of knowledge, Liz, you said experts, academics, researchers, there's this like knowledge barrier to learn all the intricacies of Wikipedia, some of which I think are really valuable. It's not just pedantics, but things like neutral point of view, which was another policy I mentioned. Like, it's really hard to write neutrally about a topic. I didn't go into this, but we've even found research that people who come to Wikipedia with a politically partisan point of view actually get more neutral as they write on Wikipedia. And it's the only place on the internet that happens. But it's hard to get there. It's hard to learn those principles. So we've actually started, like we just recently started kind of like that user experience for a new user, building that in. I'm sure like a lot of the tech people on the call know what I'm talking about. So it makes it easier when you make your first edit. You get like a star and like a welcome sign, and people tell you what you did right, and people kind of encourage you with things you did wrong. But we have a ways to go there. And I think that's been a big barrier.
It looks like, Nadee, that you could be answering questions for the next 2 hours. Unfortunately, that's the end of our Q&A time officially. But what I wanted to do, it looks like that, Michael, that sucks for you as much as I think it probably sucks for other people. But what I want to do is offer, we can take a break for those of you that want to take a break. Nadee, if you're able to stick around during that break and people can keep asking questions, that would be great. It looks like Sarah and Eric, Kenji, Crystal, and Michael, is that the end? Oh, and Chander.
I'll keep my answer shorter. Sorry.
No, it's great. It's great. No, that's awesome. So why don't we do that? Is that okay, Preston?
Yeah. Let us reconvene at 35.
Sounds good. That's 6 minutes. So.
Real quick, before everybody splits up, can we give Nadee a round of applause? And if you want to turn your camera off when we do that, I will take the break.
Thank you.
There's some great chat happening in the chat, so thank you for people who are contributing there. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Read the discussion. Go take 5 or 6 minutes breaks. When you come back, we will be talking about the Secret Service with Brandon Beerbauer. And until then, Nadee will answer a few more questions. Thank you, everyone.
Nadee, quick question, and I'm assuming the answer is no. Since it is kind of a referencing link, web of stuff, is there a Wikipedia page for like the top 1,000 needed things that need to be filled out on Wikipedia? Like,
by topic, yes, and those are things that are volunteer. So like, there's like the top civil rights and kind of like Black figures throughout history. That was something that was created in the past year. So there's like certain ones by topic, but not holistically. There is one for women. Actually, there's a group called Women in Red, and they do female scientists, female leaders, all of whom don't have a page or need a ton more information also. So.
Thank you. All right, I'll have to go digging for that.
So question, how in the world would I edit Wikipedia? Is it intuitive and I just have never tried?
It is not intuitive yet. It's getting easier. Yeah, it's definitely not intuitive yet. We're introducing some things probably in the next month or two that's going to make it a lot easier. I encourage you to kind of, what I always encourage people is to find an edit-a-thon, which is what we call like the editing spaces where people get together to edit. Those have all gone virtual now, of course, because of Corona, which makes it a little bit easy. So find a topic, find an edit-a-thon. If you have questions, you can reach out to me and I'm happy to connect you. But those are where there's like veteran editors who want to bring people in and walk you through. And Wikipedia includes images. It can be as easy as uploading images, and that also changes the narrative. Those are images that go to the top of Google image searches. So like all of these things are things that you can do.
Tiny interjection. I have to point out that Nadee's talk was one of the best cited talks that I've seen. every single image was gave its Creative Commons attribution and the owner. And I know personally I need to do a lot better about that, especially because a lot of these pictures come from Wikimedia and Wikipedia, so it's really easy to cite. So yeah, if you're doing presentations, do what she did, have that runner along the bottom and cite your sources.
So what would you say for people like me who have run into these negative editors and where in these cases I'm suspicious of veteran editors because of that? How are you, so two parts of the question, how are you getting better editors out there or being able to train editors to be a little bit more better? And how do you encourage people like me who have been discouraged from ever contributing my own edits to Wikipedia?
Yeah, and I'm sorry for that, Michael. I mean, I know it can be a toxic environment. So like, I hear that. I really hear that. I've encountered it myself. So okay, a couple things. We are instituting a universal code of conduct, and that's actually something that came out of not us, like as a foundation. We rarely do things like that. It's a pretty anarchic group of people, as you can imagine. We kind of like it that way, but they wanted that, and we have more and more active editors now who are coming in who are like, we're not going to stand for this, and so we have the mechanisms to support that. So code of conduct, policies for harassment, things like that, that's not going to fix the problem straight away. What I encourage, if you want to edit or if you want to come back, is again, like those edit-a-thons are finding the community, because I feel like a lot of people that I talk to, they are not just looking to kind of write something in. They're looking for community, people to talk to, people to debate with, people who are passionate about this topic, just not like, a horrible, toxic debate. And so finding those communities, I think, is, to me, the best way of getting introduced and working on Wikipedia.
And what if the editor is trying to get rid of that community, which is the case where like my area of interest was a cappella music. And there was an editor who basically did a big like non-notability thing on the entire a cappella thing about a decade and a half ago. And that's what discouraged me. And like, it's not necessarily harassment, it's not necessarily that, but that kind of thing.
So there is, for English Wikipedia specifically, there's something called, I think it's the Tea House, which is like, it's an online community gathering place. And it's somewhere where you can go and kind of ask these types of broad questions to the editors who hang out at the Tea House are those who are just looking to help work with new people. So like, how do I help get past notability guidelines for someone who just apparently has a grudge against a cappella? Maybe they can't sing. And so they can help. We're trying to figure out more online spaces like that.
Is the question situation just jump in with a question? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Does Wikipedia have any plans in the future to expand its capabilities as a reference library? For example, if you're looking up, say, a piece by Bach, to include the score there, or partnering with Inslip to do so, or Project Gutenberg for publications of poetry that are on the public domain, or patents?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things there, but like I think you're talking references and not specifically like audio and video on Wikipedia, but just references overall. Yeah. There are, I think some of that is just like licensing and making sure that it's okay. Like those references have to be something that can be accessed anywhere. So I think the goal is to get there. There's been some like technical challenges of like putting something there that then for some reason someone else can't access. I don't know all the details with references. I know that's been a big topic of discussion, but I'm not sure what's holding us back from doing that.
You mentioned the virtual assistants like Alexa and whatnot. Do you do any direct partnership with the tech companies around making information available to those voice assistants?
Yes and no. So we have kind of open APIs, so people can just build off, and that's actually what happens. Like this whole and the NLP researchers, that wasn't something where we went to them and we're like, it's just when NLP researchers really started kind of building those systems, they were like, oh, this is the largest open data set in a gajillion languages. Google is the one that we probably have the most direct partnership with. Others are more kind of just using our API.
Okay, thanks.